All right, check this stupidity out, okay? Eggs. These cartons of eggs. This came up to $75 for this. One bag. I bought cheap ass ground beef, a roast, cheap French cut roast, 4 cheap ass cheddar packs, and then some cream. Okay, so let's put this together. One bag with eggs, ground beef, cheap roast, 4 packs of cheese, and some cream. That came up to $75. And this meat in the new normal is $8, $8 per kilogram for cheap meat like this. I've seen up to $12. So I've seen packs like this that hit like $24 about. So I think it's ridiculous that you know, I'm not going extravagant here. It's freaking ground beef, a little bit of cheap mass-produced cheese, some no-name cream, and cheap mass-produced eggs, and it's $75. This is the new normal. Give me a break. And what I actually find upsetting is that I do not hear anybody complaining about the red meat. Anytime I see or hear anything about red meat, it's how toxic it is, it's how it's super unhealthy, it's inflammatory, how it can lead to cancer, how the fats in all animal foods pretty much are high in cholesterol and saturated fat, are going to give you cancer or any other of the modern diseases. All of this is put onto meat. I find it really convenience that, you know, the United Nations, the new Canadian food guides are all related to increasing massively the amount of vegetables, changing the current protein, which is really not enough already in the guidelines, to switching those kind of proteins for plant proteins, processed, isolated, plant proteins that they make mock meats and substitutes with. It's very disheartening that in the mass public, either you hear them saying that they're actively reducing the amount of meat, you hear that they think that that's a lot healthier. Those that are eating the red meat, you'll actually hear them, you know, justify it, feel bad that they're still eating the red meat, speak about trying to reduce it. This is the worst time for me to be, you know, have started so late the carnivore diet, where I'm reaping a lot of the health benefits, the easy satiety, the lack of cravings anymore for junk food, really taking control of my weight loss and feeling good about it. And every single, you know, thing about the carnivore diet currently, especially during this pandemic, is super expensive. Now, the reason that it is super expensive, the meat, is that all of the cattle, the livestock that are in Canada currently, have to pass through a very narrow amount of meat processing and meat packing plants. There are 3 companies in the whole country, primarily, that have the monopoly on taking the meat from the livestock and bringing it to market so that we get it when we go to our grocery stores. Coincidentally, the workers that work in these meat processing plants are extremely vulnerable to COVID testing and are coming up testing positive, which the mainstream media are saying that these corporations are shutting down a large amount of the meat processing plants due to employees being infected. Now, the cattle, the livestock, the eggs, the milk, the cows, all of the livestock, all of the animal food itself is not tainted at all. However, due to the closing of these 3 facilities, Cargill being one of the major ones, all of this meat is either being wasted, the animals are being euthanized, the milk is being dumped. This is creating a false food scarcity where there's tons of animal food that's available to Canadians. However, the processing plants, because we put all of our eggs in one basket, and when I say we, I really don't mean that we were stupid and careless and didn't think that relying on a few companies to process all of the meat for all of Canada would be less than wise decision. This is through corporate companies fusing together, gaining a monopoly over many of the markets, especially the food industry. Now, Cargill is also getting involved in meat and plant substitutes. We hear the Beyond Meat, the Impossible Burger, but it goes a lot further than just making a burger. There's lab-grown meat, using actual stem cells from live bovine, as well as probably other animals, and growing this tissue in the lab. This is called clean meat, and it's basically growing slabs of beef because they harvested genetics from the cows. There is a huge health campaign. Canada, Justin Trudeau just put $100 million subsidizing the processed fake meat industry. It's really disheartening to see and to know and to have done the research and realize that animal food, red meat, is extremely healthy, that the evidence does not support that it actually causes cancers. These are associative studies, again, that I always bring up. Nutritional science is not science. It's a bunch of food questionnaires that corporations can use to form links or associations, and therefore when the general public hear words like, oh, meat is associated or linked, and what is risk? What's the difference between increasing the risk of cancer by consuming red meat by 12% compared to smoking that's 20,000%? 12% is meaningless, and you can't determine 12%. These are statistics mixed with food questionnaires and fancy science, but it does give a definite message to the public when you hear associated, linked, or increased risk. It means it causes it. And then people propagate this same myth and don't realize that they've been manipulated by the actual corporations. Cargill has a conflict of interest in a way to the meat consumers and this new campaign to get more and more people into plant substitute. Cargill sells meat as well as is pushing for the meat substitutes. The issue with the meat substitutes is that they're processed from already subsidized pea, soy, and all of these stupid plants that are dirt cheap to produce. They rather make products, because all you need is basically some kind of plant, soy for example. You use refinement techniques in an industrial setting to use solvents to isolate and pull out and extract these proteins. Many chemicals, very unnatural. And Cargill is pushing for that because it's from cheap, subsidized monocrops, instead of a less lucrative market of feeding us meat, where they still have to grow these things. Why jump and give it to the cow to give it to the consumer? Just push the cow out of the way and goes directly to the consumer with propaganda campaigns saying that it's healthy. Use a crisis and pandemic to shut down facilities and jack up the price, where there's plenty of beef in Canada, but at the moment, for dirt cheap cuts of meat, it's 3 times the price of what it was a year ago, or even a couple of months ago, where it was double the price. Now we're tipping over to triple the price. It's frustrating to know the truth about the health effects, the positive health effects of eating a highly animal-based nutrition, and a bag, a freaking one stupid grocery bag just cost me $75. And what's the most worrying is I hear no one complaining about this.